Imagine waking up on an ordinary morning with the sound of your alarm still echoing softly in your ears and feeling deep in your soul that something is about to change. There is no logical reason for this feeling. No lottery tickets purchased, no promotions announced, no extraordinary plans hatched. And yet there is an inexplicable, almost magical certainty that a miracle is about to happen. What would you do if you knew that in just 7 days, $25,000 would be in your hands? That's right, 7 days. An amount capable of relieving debts, turning dreams into reality, and restoring your faith in the impossible. This story is not about chance or luck. It's about the invisible force that acts when all seems lost, and the power of believing that something bigger is working on your behalf, even when you can't see the details. The call to the impossible. It was an afternoon like any other when Maria received an intriguing message. Get ready. In 7 days, something big will happen in your life. The message came from an unexpected person, but the certainty with which the words were written left her uneasy. Maria, a hard-working woman, used to working from sunrise to sunset, could barely imagine how her life could change in such a short time. She laughed in disbelief as she looked at her cell phone screen. There was no way that could be true, he thought. Her salary barely covered the bills, and she was still struggling to pay for her son's college education. But deep down, a spark of curiosity ignited. And if she reread the message once again and decided that she would do something different, she would believe it. No matter how impossible it seemed, she allowed herself to feel hope. Maria realized that sometimes the greatest miracle is not what happens outside, but what happens inside us when we decide to believe. The first day, the seed of faith. The next day, Maria started something she hadn't done in a while, giving thanks. She was grateful for everything she had, no matter how difficult her reality was. Her small house, which was in need of renovation, suddenly felt welcoming. Tiring work at the market became a reason for gratitude. That same afternoon, something curious happened. An unknown customer left a generous tip, much larger than usual. It was just the beginning, but for Maria, that gesture was a sign. Small, but enough to light the flame of expectation. The second day, the activation. On the second day, something changed. Maria decided to act. She began revisiting old ideas she had abandoned for fear of failure. One of these ideas was to sell her delicious homemade cakes. She began testing recipes and sharing samples with neighbors and coworkers. To his surprise, orders began to pour in. A friend asked to order 10 cakes for a party, and another, impressed with the taste, shared about the business on his social networks. The orders began to arrive, and Maria realized that the universe was responding to her faith with opportunities. The third day, the unexpected. On the third day, while shopping at the market where she worked, Maria ran into an old school friend. He mentioned that he was organizing a large corporate event and needed a dessert supplier. Without thinking twice, Maria offered. "I don't know how I'm going to cope," she confessed that night to her sister, "but something tells me this is bigger than it seems." And it was. The event brought more than profit. It brought connections. Each guest seemed delighted with their cakes, And for the first time, Maria began to believe that she was experiencing something extraordinary. The fourth day, the turn. On the fourth day, Maria woke up with a feeling of peace and confidence. It was as if all the pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, even though she still couldn't see the whole picture. An unexpected call changed everything. An old friend who had moved abroad years ago got in touch. She was returning to Brazil to open a restaurant and needed a talented pastry chef. "I immediately thought of you, Maria. Are you interested?" The proposal seemed too good to be true. And yet, here it was, being offered as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The fifth and sixth days, multiplication. Over the next 2 days, Maria barely had time to breathe. Between meetings, orders, and dreams being shaped into reality, she began to realize that the $25,000 wasn't just a magical figure. They were manifesting themselves in the form of contracts, partnerships, and unexpected sales. Each step felt miraculous, but at the same time, it made sense. It was as if everything she had experienced before was preparing the way for this moment. The seventh day, the complete miracle. On the seventh day, Maria finally sat down to do the math. When you added up everything that had come in, from unexpected tips to closed contracts, the total exceeded $25,000. She cried, not because money was the solution to all your problems, but because that number was living proof that miracles happen. Proof that when you believe, act, and keep your heart open, the impossible becomes possible. And you? Are you prepared for the miracle that is on the way? This story is not just about Mary. It's about you, about what can happen when you choose to believe, even if everything around you says otherwise. Because sometimes life surprises us when we least expect it. Glowing star. Maria spent the next few days in a state of gratitude so deep that she seemed to float. Every breath was a reminder that she was experiencing something extraordinary. But it wasn't just about the money. Yes, the $25,000 had changed his life materially. His son's college tuition was paid for, the bills were paid off, and the kitchen in his small house had finally gotten the repairs it so desperately needed. However, the real miracle had happened inside her. She now saw the world with different eyes. Before, difficulties seemed like insurmountable barriers. Today, they were steps, each one taking her higher. The miracle had planted a seed that never stopped growing, the seed of active faith. The miracle is contagious. Maria's transformation began to attract attention. His neighbors, friends, and even customers at the market where he worked began to notice his different energy. She had something everyone wanted, a light, a strength that seemed impossible to put out. One day, while leaving a meeting with her new business partner, the friend who was opening the restaurant, she was approached by an unknown woman on the street. The woman had tears in her eyes. "You don't know me, but I know your story. I heard about you through a friend. I'm going through something difficult, and I don't know what to do. How did you manage to change your life so quickly?" Maria smiled, held the stranger's hands, and said something that was now her deepest truth. "I believed. Even when it seemed crazy, I chose to believe. But it wasn't just that. I acted. I took the little opportunities that came my way, and treated each one as if it were a miracle in itself. The woman thanked her, and Maria realized that her journey wasn't just about her. It was about spreading hope, like one spark that lights another and another, until the whole world is illuminated. The domino effect. Maria began sharing her story in community groups and local church meetings. She spoke with passion, with a heart full of gratitude and humility. And, surprisingly, the stories began to multiply. A man who had lost everything after closing his small business heard Maria speak and decided to try again. Inspired, he reopened his repair shop with the little he had, trusting that the universe would pave the way. Within weeks, the business began to prosper in ways he never imagined. A young single mother who worked as a day laborer decided to invest her savings in a sewing course that she had always dreamed of taking. 3 months later, she had her own client list and was sewing custom-made party dresses. What began as Mary's miracle became a wave of miracles that reached other lives. The 7 miracle principles. As Maria reflected on her journey, she realized that what had happened to her followed a pattern, something that anyone could apply to their own life. So, she decided to name these steps the 7 miracle principles. Believing in the invisible. It all starts within you. Before the world changes, your mind needs to change. Gratitude as a foundation. Being grateful for what you already have is the fertile soil for growth. Act with confidence. Even small actions can open huge doors. Being open to opportunities. Miracles often come disguised as hard work and simple ideas. Persist even when it seems impossible. The path to a miracle is rarely easy, but it is always worth it. Share your journey. The miracle is not just for you. When you share it, it multiplies. Recognize the source. Whatever your belief, recognizing that there is something greater guiding your steps is essential. Back to the start. A few weeks later, Maria went to the market where it all started. The place seemed smaller now, but not because of any physical changes. It was Maria who had grown up. She found a coworker, a young woman named Julia, who looked haggard. Julia was dealing with accumulated debts and the responsibility of caring for 2 younger brothers. She confessed that she felt like she was trapped in a cycle with no way out. Maria looked into Julia's eyes and saw a version of herself from months ago. He smiled, held the young woman's hands, and said, "I know how you feel. But believe me, what seems impossible today can be a miracle tomorrow. All you need is to take the first step." Those words planted a new seed. The future that doesn't stop. Mary's miracle continues. Not because she gained money, but because she gained something much greater. The ability to believe that life is full of possibilities, and that each of us carries within us the strength to create extraordinary changes. And now, the question that remains is, what will be your miracle? Remember, 7 days can change everything. Believe, act, and be ready to receive. Glowing star. Maria felt every day that her story was just beginning. The $25,000 that had come into his life was more than a sum of money. They were a symbol, proof that, with faith and action, the universe responded in unimaginable ways. But she knew she couldn't stop there. His life was now guided by a greater purpose. to show people that they too could experience their own miracles. And it was with this determination that Maria took the next step, the first impact project. Inspired by the 7 miracle principles she had created, Maria decided to found a small community project. He called it Miracle Seeds, a space where people could share their stories, seek support, and learn practical tools to transform their lives. The project started modestly. Maria organized weekly meetings in a borrowed room at the local church. There, she shared her journey and invited others to do the same. But beyond words, she also offered concrete actions. Maria created simple workshops, teaching practical skills that could help people generate extra income. From confectionery to crafts, including tips on how to organize finances or even cultivate a vegetable garden in small spaces. Each workshop was an invitation to transformation. Before long, the project began to grow. People from neighboring neighborhoods started to show up, bringing their own stories and dreams. The church room became too small, but miraculously, a local businessman heard about Maria's work and decided to donate a larger space for the activities. "I believe in what you're doing," he said, as he handed over the keys to an old warehouse he no longer used. "This is more than a project. It's a light for this community." The first stories of transformation. With the new space, Sementes du Milagre has become a reference point for the community. Exciting stories began to emerge. There was Dona Rosa, a 65-year-old woman who believed that her age prevented her from doing anything new. Inspired by Maria, she started making and selling artisanal jams, using fruits that grew in her backyard. Within a few months, Dona Rosa not only had a stable income, but also rediscovered her self-esteem. And there was Joao, a young man who had dropped out of school due to a lack of prospects. In the project, he found support to complete his studies and started working with technology, repairing cell phones. Each story was a reminder that miracles were not just big events that transformed everything at once. They were also small steps, seeds planted in the soil of faith, which grew with care, effort, and time. The invitation to dream bigger. One day, during one of the project meetings, Maria received an unexpected proposal. A local television station wanted to interview her and share her story with a wider audience. "I'm no one important," she said nervously. "Why would anyone be interested in my story?" The reporter smiled and replied, "Are you nobody important? Ask the dozens of people here whose lives you have transformed. His story is exactly what the world needs to hear right now." The interview was a success. When it aired, messages from all over the country began to arrive. People from different cities wanted to know more about the project, about the principles of the miracle, and how they could apply it in their own lives. Maria realized that the universe was opening a new door. It was time to dream bigger, a new horizon. With increasing visibility, Maria decided to expand Sementes du Milagre to reach more people. She began looking for partnerships, and soon large organizations became interested in supporting the project. Within months, what began as a small group meeting in a borrowed room became a national movement. Online workshops were created, allowing people from different places to participate. Maria also wrote a book, sharing her journey and detailing the steps anyone could take to transform their life. The book, titled 7 Days to a Miracle, A Journey of Faith and Action, became a bestseller, reaching thousands of readers. The legacy that continues. But for Maria, the greatest miracle of all was not the success of the project or the reach of her book. The greatest miracle was seeing the flame of hope rekindling in people's hearts. Every message she received, every smile she saw at meetings, was a reminder that her journey was fulfilling a greater purpose. She never forgot where she came from, and that's why, with every step she took, Maria made a point of returning to the essence: gratitude. She knew that life is a cycle of giving and receiving, of believing and acting, and that each person she helped took with them a part of the miracle that had transformed their life. And now you? As Maria continues her journey, a question echoes. What about you? What would you do if you knew that in 7 days, a miracle could change your life? Perhaps you are at the exact point where Mary was at the beginning of her story. Maybe you are waiting for a sign, a change, something to rekindle your hope. And here's the secret. The miracle is not as far away as it seems. It starts within you, the moment you choose to believe. So what are you waiting for? Remember, 7 days can change everything. Believe, act, and prepare for the extraordinary. Glowing star. Maria continued to be surprised by the developments in her life. The impact she generated seemed to have no limits. Now, in addition to in-person and online workshops, the Sementes do Milagre project has expanded to include personalized mentoring. The idea was to help people identify their unique abilities and turn these into life opportunities. With each story she heard, Maria saw a part of herself. I saw the struggle, the doubts, the dark days, but I also saw the strength, potential, and faith that could emerge from the most unlikely situations. The global journey. One day, while reviewing the workshop schedule, Maria received an unexpected call. On the other end of the line was a representative from an international organization who had read his book and followed the project. Maria, your story is an example of how transformation is possible, even in the most challenging conditions. We would like to invite you to share your work at a global conference on social impact. At first, Maria hesitated. She had never left her city, much less traveled to another country. The idea seemed too grand, almost out of touch with reality. But then she remembered what she always told others. Miracles happen when we step out of our comfort zone and move forward with faith. Accepting the opportunity was an act of courage. At the conference, Maria spoke to hundreds of people, sharing the essence of the 7 miracle principles. With every word, she realized that she was not just telling her story, but planting new seeds in the hearts of people all over the world. A new challenge. After the conference, doors began to open in ways Maria never imagined. Invitations to lectures, partnership proposals, and even the chance to create a television program reached her. But with these opportunities also came challenges. Managing such a large project required more structure, more time, and above all, more emotional energy. Maria began to feel the weight of responsibility. There were nights when she wondered if she was doing enough, if she was prepared to handle something so big. On one of those nights, while looking out the window of her house, she remembered something important. The miracle didn't depend on her alone. She closed her eyes and prayed, asking for clarity and strength. And as always happened, the answer came in the form of peace. Maria realized that the secret was to trust, delegate, and continue acting from the heart. Forming leaders. Maria began training leaders to multiply the impact of Sementes do Milagre. People from different cities and countries were invited to become ambassadors for the project, taking the message of faith and action to their own communities. Each leader underwent special training, where they learned not only the principles of the miracle, but also practical management and empathy skills. Maria knew that the true power of the project was in the people, and by empowering them, she was ensuring that the legacy continued. Soon, Sementes do Milagre was present in dozens of countries, reaching thousands of lives. The transformative encounter. On one of her trips to visit one of the project centers, Maria met someone who would profoundly impact her life. It was a young woman named Anna, who had lost everything in a flood and was trying to rebuild her life. Anna was at rock bottom when she heard about the project. She started by participating in an entrepreneurship workshop and, with the tools she learned, opened a small artisanal soap company. When Maria met Anna, she had already transformed her small company into a thriving business, employing women from her community and reinvesting part of the profits in social projects. "You changed my life, Maria," Anna said with tears in her eyes. Maria held her hands and replied, "You yourself changed your life. I just made a point of reminding you of the power that was already inside." The miracle cycle. Mary realized that miracles have no beginning or end. They are cycles that are constantly renewed, connecting lives and creating networks of transformation. The impact that started with a simple text message, "Get ready. In 7 days, something big will happen in your life," had transformed into a global current of faith, action, and change. Now, Maria no longer thought of her days of struggle as moments of pain, but as the foundation of something extraordinary. And she knew the same was possible for anyone who was willing to believe. And are you still waiting? Mary's story reminds us that miracles are closer than we imagine. They start with a choice. Believe in the invisible, act with determination, and be open to the unexpected. So if you are reading these words now, know that perhaps this is your moment. Maybe the universe is whispering something to you. Perhaps in 7 days, your life can be completely transformed. What would you do if you believe this? Are you willing to take the first step? Glowing star. Maria knew that her mission would never truly be completed. Every day, new stories emerged, new seeds were planted, and new miracles began to blossom. His life had become a living testimony that the impossible is just the beginning of something extraordinary. If there is anything that Maria learned throughout her journey, it is that each of us has the power to transform our own reality. It doesn't matter where you are now, what you face, or how distant your dream may seem. The miracle begins when you choose to believe, act, and persist. And now I want to speak directly to you. Yes, you are reading this. It is no coincidence that this story reached this point. Maybe this is the push you needed to change your life. Maybe it's time to plant your own seed and wait for the miracle that is on the way. But you don't have to do it alone. This is the place to find more stories like Maria's, to learn the steps that can transform your life, and to connect with people who believe in the power of the impossible. So, subscribe to our channel right now. White heavy check mark, click subscribe so you don't miss any inspiring content. Thumbs up like this video so more people can be reached. Bell turn on notifications to be the first to know when new stories and tips are published. Outbox Stray, share this video with someone who needs hope or motivation. Together, we can create a chain of miracles and transform lives, one story at a time. And remember, believe, act, and prepare. The next miracle could be yours. Glowing Star.